We are live on YouTube. As people come in, slowly. I'll mute this. I don't see myself. All right. Welcome everyone to the first syllable Pens Down. The entire idea is to bring writers together to write within the same fictional world, because a lot of writing today, writers write by themselves, and we're trying to change that. And we believe world building is a key aspect to not only allow writers to be in a collaborative space, but also share ideas. And I hope that you can see a little of the magic of what's going to happen. So the way that we're going to run Pins Down today is we are going to, so the way that we're going to run Pins Down is that we are going to discuss the world. I'm going to present a fictional world, and what that fictional world is going to be called Neptune, and it's the first human underwater city. And then from after the initial presentation of it, it's gonna be like 2-3 minutes. I'm gonna have a discussion with the writers and do a little bit of world building and hashing out some of the details in the world, a little bit more, some of the questions they have. And from there on, we're going to write in the same Google Doc for 20-30 minutes. It's gonna be a flash story, and flash stories are between 100 words to 1,000 words. So it's not really intense, but a lot of the way it's going to be designed is that each writer is going to pick a part of that major event that's happening. So at least we'll have at least one writer writing from each, the beginning, middle, and end of that big event. And then at the end, we'll do a live reading. And if there is enough viewers, we can see if we could pick our crowd favorite. Yeah, so let's start right there. I'm going to stop sharing screen, and then I'm going to go again and share the screen for, let's see, 1 second. Doing live is always, I have to do desktop one. That will be the best one. Actually, what is it? This is where the so maneuvering these things are always very interesting. Let's see. Doc. I'm just going to share the Google Doc, the screen of the Google Doc, and then we'll be getting started ASAP. Okay, there we go. Here, hope you're able to see. Okay, so Neptune. So we're gonna have that discussion. So Neptune is the first human city. So to give you context of what that world is that humanity, this is over 500 years in the future. And humanity has gone under the ocean because there's extreme climatic events that doesn't permit humanity to live on the surface anymore. A lot of people have passed away due to wars and different processes. So there's about 13 million people that live under this giant city that's underwater in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. There's 3 different pod cities that are out in the outer. But some of the major dynamics that's happening in the world is that there's 2 groups of people. There are the Terras, which are more fundamentalist human beings that are attaching themselves to how humanity is and what humanity can be. And a lot of them have tried to hold on to their traditions because of like their cultures, because there's a slew of different people of races, but it's starting to mix where it's the point where everyone starts to look like black and brown. The second group of people are the Gills, and the Gills are people who embrace genetic modification, and they have very much transformed themselves into subwater species where they're able to breathe in the water and they're able to travel. And a lot of society doesn't really accept the gills and they don't really believe in that. So there's these different visions that are happening. And I want to open the floor just for the writers to ask questions, and then we can start to do a little bit of world building. So this is like a 33,000 feet overview. Feel free to speak in and ask questions about what's happening in the world right now. And then you can tell your name or pen name if you'd like.
Hey, Fabrice, I do have a question.
Yes.
So these gills, are they somehow, they have like lungs as well? Are they able to live in air as well as water?
Yes, they're able to live in air and as well as water. But majority of humans don't live on the surface anymore because it's not breathable. Maybe there could be a space where the gills allows people to breathe in the very toxic air of in the surface, but most are not able to do that anymore. So it's literally an underground city with a big cover, and then the city's under there, and it's very gritty. It's very like metallic. It's very very gritty city. Let's just say.
Okay. So can you tell us more about the organization of the city, the politics, the society, the economy, that kind of stuff? Do you have that?
So and we can co-create it together. So in the next 5-10 minutes, I think a lot of it is that there is just a council of people that is holding on to the power, and they have like very strict like rules of like, this is how you need to be, this is how you need to do, because we don't want to repeat the same mistakes of the past. So it's very like, I would say it's very dark, sort of like the necromancer William Gibson world. So and there's a lot of underground stream of thought where people are very countercultural and they've kind of lost faith. I think a lot of the world is to try to bring more hope in humanity, because a lot of humanity thought that they were going to go off the island, off the world for a better part. Like as of right now, we think we're going to go to Mars, and there's this idea that we're going to populate the other planets, but this is not happening anymore, because now people are on the water and then they can go on the surface, and then now you have people that have gills, so that means that they're going to be on the Earth for a long while now.
Ooh. Right. Okay. So just giving up. So basically, the idea is that people with the gills have forsaken their humanness to embrace some kind of other form of, almost like another form of life. And then I guess there's some kind of movement to retake the surface. Is that part of it? Is there some kind of a hope or something like that the surface will be livable
100%.
one more time?
100%. I think that's the terrorists. And what would you think that the terrorists would want? Like if they're underwater, and then you have people that are embracing the water, but there's people that want to live out on the surface. Like what are some of the tensions that you feel would rise? And I'll open it for Marsha and Bryn as well.
Yeah, I actually had a question for the other group. That is, where are they living? If they're underwater, are they living like in a submarine, or like what kind of conditions are they actually living in if they haven't also decided to evolve into like, their new habitat? You're really only human if you can live in a human space.
Do they live in the water? That's a good question.
Right. Because they have to live in the water. So it's like, maybe they built, some sort of submarine or something. And how submerged do they have to be? It's semantics at this point. But so
no, that's a great question. I think the way that I see it, I'm gonna put the Google Doc link on there, so we can even take some notes as we're talking for the world building. I think that's a powerful question. The way that I was seeing is like there's this main city that's underwater in the Atlantic Ocean. It's covered by like a large tube, like a large polymer. So that kind of the traditional underwater city that we see in sci-fi stories. And then so you're able to breathe under there, and you're able to live under there. So it's like a large city. And the gills and the terrors live together. So they're able to walk normally and breathe normal air because there's limited oxygen. So like people live under there. But there's different pods. There's 3 pod cities that kind of like there's a large tunnel that goes out, like 3 different pod cities. In one of the cities, there's more gills than humans or than terras. So a lot of that city has started to be transformed. They started to put like pools of water and kind of they're more flexible in terms of going to the ocean and then like being in like a space where they can click a button and then the water just fills up and then they can swim outside.
So there's different, I mean, that's another question, I guess, is like, so you're saying that there's some level of voluntary segregation, that people are living in, there's gill areas and there's terra areas. Is that what you're saying?
100%. So
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's segregation, but it's just naturally like how
Yeah.
people, because
Right.
they want to be closer to people who are the gills. Because the gills have like, it's a movement that started in society because they've started to embrace like the ocean. They're like, we want to embrace the ocean. We want to embrace the ocean life. We don't believe the surface is they can still breathe on the surface, but they embrace that process.
So we got Gillville and Terratown.
I like that.
All right.
Gillville and Terratown.
All right.
So, how do they meet up? Like, where's the middle ground? Who feeds who? Obviously, you're underwater. That's where your food is going to now come from. There's nothing more to live off of on the land. Are the guild people? Are they the suppliers, or are the people who are still human the suppliers of food? Because they're, maybe they have to think about a different way of making or sourcing that food.
What do you think? I'm just gonna put the question back to you.
Yeah, I mean,
who's dominating?
Who's dominating? I mean, I would assume that it would be the people with the guilds because they can dive, they can go to those places, and they would actually be the suppliers of the food. And so I guess it would be that they are now the species that is more dominant.
But they could also, through political or social manipulation, somehow actually be, I mean, farmers have generally not been the powerful.
That's true.
You know what I mean? It's usually the elites. So
Yeah.
have the terras maintain their grip on power while living off of the efforts of the guilds. That's another possibility, right?
Yeah. So what would they have that the guilds would need? What would they be supplying? Are they maybe sourcing different sorts of like oxygen or something like that?
I really like that.
Maybe because yes, they have gills, but maybe they still can go on land, but maybe there's something that the terrors are working on that allows for them to breathe. Maybe it's like an oxygen tank or something like that they're still working on. They still have the power to do. I mean, it's 500 years, who knows what we could be making. Maybe there's like the comforts of home, just like on a spaceship, but below sea level now. Maybe, and also we still need fresh water, right? Is there a convergence of salt water into fresh water? They're living in the ocean. Are there any more? Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of ways that this can go. Yeah.
I don't think elites generally have not necessarily based themselves on material. You know what I mean? It's more like spiritual or philosophical, right? I mean, the terrors, it could be that there's a dominant ideology of retaking the surface, and that people who have given up on that and gone the gills route are kind of subhuman and have so that maybe the terrors have a grip on the the intellectual property, as you mentioned, the technology that keeps everybody alive, that turns, maybe there's that, maybe they have a grip on the economy, maybe there's mining interests, or, or water. Water could very well be actually,
Yeah.
fresh water could actually be the key element. That would be interesting.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's
Like
like the Nova,
the
centralized.
fresh water source or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe that's the way that they can also, you know, pull some sort of oxygen or, or carbon or
Yeah,
something out from it.
right.
Um, but where do they
Yeah, I
meet?
really like that.
Where do they meet? Like yes, they have the conflict of who's human and who isn't. Um, but where's the middle ground there? I mean, they are they not
Hmm.
eating the same things? I mean,
Wow.
they want the gills do want to go back onto the surface, so they have the power to. The Terras believe that they are supposed to be back on the surface. Where's the meeting ground for them?
Yeah. Where
You
is
know?
the conflict, right? Where's the
Yeah.
middle? Where are they going to actually
Right.
interact to the
Right.
point where we have an actual conflict? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I think we have to decide what is the history of the gills. Like, how did they emerge? Were they created or did they evolve? I guess they were
I,
created. Jennifer.
yeah, yeah, genetic modification. So this was
Yeah.
out of necessity. And
Hmm.
I think you brought up a really great point, Marsha, and it was like, if oxygen is like a commodity where they're selling oxygen, and the terrors have a grip on oxygen. So, and then let's say the girls or people who felt necessarily oppressed by that, and they're like, okay, we have a way forward where we don't have to be dependent on oxygen, and that we have to be in the water for a certain amount of time during the day to be
Okay.
able to survive.
Okay, that's important. They have to be in the water for a certain proportion of the time. Okay, that's a key, I think.
Since we're doing this about an hour, and this could be like a 3 hour world building thing, but I think we've done a bit of world building, or we've kind of defined a little
Yeah.
bit more of the world. So I wonder, like, in terms of the, what'd you say?
Just go for it, huh? We're done.
Yeah.
Whatever you think, we go for it. All right.
No, we'll explore this in the flash stories. But I think that the major conflict that I was thinking is that there is like a major crack in in the tubing,
Okay.
and I think it's intentionally made by someone, and
Still terrorists. Still terrorists, man. I knew you could trust them.
no, but I think that I think that would be the conflict where this crack starts to happen and water starts to go into the city. And I think you could see the gills are now the people that are either going to choose whether to save the terrors or not, because that's like the first major incident that happens. And so I would love to like be able to write from the beginning and the middle and the end from it, and then have us each pick either beginning, middle, or end after the aftermath, the beginning, during, or the start, the middle, or the end of that conflict from a perspective of either the terror or the gills. So Bryn, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I would assume this is within of the three little sections. This is in the section where the gills are predominant.
All right, so I think this would be the main section. This would be the main city,
Which
where both people are walking.
And I did have a quick world building question. So how much of the history before this is known, and whose fault was it? I think that's important to find out, like, if there's a fault to be had here, because that could really add into this. Sorry, and I mean that's adding maybe more than we need at this point.
No, I think this is powerful. I feel like this is also making a commentary on like where we're headed as a species right now, because if humanity can't live on the surface anymore, so that means that we messed up. we really direly messed up in terms of like the carbon dioxide is too high. There's extreme climatic changes on the surface, and the ice cap is melted. So like a lot of places around the planet are on the water now. So I wonder if that could be where it's just like maybe there's a paradigm inside Neptune where people are saying like we don't want to create the same mistakes of the past. Like maybe we don't. They're almost rejecting their forefathers. Because I know like a lot of civilization or societies that have gone through war or trauma, like for example, Germany, for example, because I've been there, a lot of the younger generation have sort of rejected the old generation because of everyone that has participated in the Nazism that been in a detriment for a lot of people. So I could see in Neptune like there's this like I could see the terrors are like, okay, we need to be better humans and we need to do better than people that have come before us. But I could see the gills are saying we need to evolve. We don't need to be better humans. We need to be a new species. Because everyone's always wondering what's the next stage of humanity. Like, are we just stuck as like bipedal creatures?
There's a huge amount here.
There is. So that's why the flash fiction again, it's you're dipping your toes micro. It's like remember 100 words to 1,000 words, very micro. We're gonna be writing in the Google Doc that I shared. And I will just assign the name. So Tim, you'll be writer 1, Marsha, you'll be writer 2, and then Bryn, you'll be writer 3, and then I'll be writer 4. And in terms of just, I hesitated writing because I wanted to go like kind of. I might not write because I want to go to kind of go alternate from as you write for the next 20 minutes, just so everyone can see what you're writing. But I think who would you like to write from? And would you like to write in the beginning of this conflict that happens when the water starts gushing in, or when like there's a crack, or maybe there's been a crack and then people don't know, like people haven't really dealt with it, and then I don't know if that's confusing or it's clear. Any clarifying questions?
It's a bit confusing, and also we need characters. So it's a bit confusing. Like I'm not sure how we're going to write different sections of a story. Like who are we need to write characters, right? You know, so we need to. Are we going to write the same characters? Because I mean, that seems kind of. I know. I mean, I have an idea of a character already that I kind of want to pursue.
Okay.
So
I think that's good. I think if you have a character, I think that you should pursue that. I was gonna give characters, but I felt like that since this is the first time around, we're experimenting, we're seeing what works, what doesn't work. But I think that's a great for next time. If we do have it next time, having a character list of like different characters that we can review and say, hey, this is this mother who's a gill and she just gave birth to the 600 gill baby. That is the first generation of gills that are born that are not genetically modified. So like maybe that could be a character, but yeah, that's a great point. That's a really good point. So if you have a character, what can you tell us about the character? We'll talk about character.
I got a
Bryn?
Go, Bryn.
I was just gonna say I think we should get an objective description of why this crack is here. Because if we don't.
Yeah,
well,
go ahead.
But if we don't have an objective description of why the crack is there, then we don't get a full sense of where we can write. Like, because if somebody's writing in a governmental capacity and is finding clues towards what happened, and they're finding out it's a gill, and one of us is finding out it's a Terra, and both of those are correct, it's going to be a little bit hard to write that. So
what if we say, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. What if we say that the crack is almost like it's almost as if there are terrors that wants to be gills, but they can't be gills, and this crack is gonna force more people to be like, hey, look, this is unsustainable. We need to start to be able to live under the water, like, and maybe that's pushing. Maybe there's an intention behind this that's gonna push people to be more gill oriented. Would that be an objective, or do you have a? I'm going to pose a question back to you. Do you have, what would be an objective for like this crack that you think could center this exercise? I think that's good. Like just have it be that it's a Terra
who did it that wants to be a Gil or needs an excuse to turn into a Gil. And that makes sense.
Okay. And Marsha, I think you're thinking.
Yeah. So I was thinking maybe it would be more of a guild that would do it, because maybe, you know, they're all evolving, and when you are evolving, you need more people in order to do more things. So another way of convincing people is to force them into, you know, having to do what you want them to do. Um, you know, it's like by any means necessary, sort of like that's the logic of it. It's like, well, you know, they have their convictions and their beliefs, but if they want to live, they'll do this. So that was like another way of thinking. But yeah, so that's
I like that. Tim,
My,
any thoughts?
yeah, I got to, first off, I think that the what happened to the dome is the mystery. All right. And everybody's blaming each other. Right. I think that's it. I think all of these are viable motives, but no one really knows. Okay. That's what I would think, is that. So we're all kind of working on who did it. Yeah, I've got a character who's, he's a Terra. He's a Terra fundamentalist. All right. And he wears a shirt that says Jesus walked on water. All right. So he's part of that whole push that we're going to be anti gills, where we're not submitting to this whole thing, and we're going to rise to the surface, right? And so he's basically kind of some kind of crazy right winger, right? You know what I mean? So his conflict is when something happens with this dome, with this crash. He's almost drowned and he's saved and he's rescued, something along those lines. And he has to confront his bias, and he has to confront what he's actually believing in.
who's he rescued by?
What? Pardon me?
Who's he rescued by?
Well, Gil, obviously.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. You know, I mean, you know, he's got to have something that's going to challenge him, and he's got to actually have to see, you know, and have to have that kind of in his face, right? And it's got to be motivated, not just by material advantage or technological advantage, but by morals and sentiment. You know what I mean?
I love it. And that's powerful. Marsha, Bryn, is there any specific characters that pop out to you? So that means that this is going to happen so you're in the middle of it while it's happening. So, Tim, so that means that we would need someone to write in the aftermath, and we would need someone to write in the before it happens.
Okay. Well, I mean, do we want to do that? Because I mean, I don't want to impose my
No, this is good. I want to hear your thoughts.
my character or anything, you know.
No, this is good. Yeah.
Want me to write up a little description?
Okay. Yeah, I'll pull up the Google Doc in less than 60 seconds, and then we'll start writing from that. And then what's going to be on the screen is people are going to be able to see as you write, and I'll alternate from the 3 writings just to see like what's happening, and so we can read and see, because to immerse ourselves in the world. And you don't have to tell your character. If you don't have a character now, you don't have to say it out loud, but as you write, just be mindful of where in the story this taking place.
Okay. So
Bryn and Marsha, any final words?
I just want just a final clarification. So we're writing from the middle of there's a crack in the dome.
So Tim looks like he's gonna be writing from the middle, where like the water is gushing in. So I was thinking that I think what would be really great would be if one writer writes before the crack, like as it's starting, and then another writer writes from the ending as like it's like finalizing, where people are recovering and all this stuff. Right. So I wonder if you don't think that's a great idea.
No.
I'm welcoming any new.
I do think that's a good idea. Yeah. So I can either write from the end. You know what? Yeah, I'll write from the recovery side of things, and maybe I'll write it from a perspective of a Gil. Yeah. All right.
All right, from the beginning. That'll work out perfectly.
Okay.
Super. And Bryn, which perspective are you gonna get? Is it gonna be a Gil or a Kara?
Um, I think mine is going to be from an elderly figure who's very unaffected by either opinion. Um, Never really had any desire to change and do a guild, but never really had anything against them. He's going to be admiring the sky, just kind of, you know, the first to notice that something is really happening.
Mm, fantastic. So I assume that we might have to switch the locations of the writing. So whoever's writing first. So let's I'm gonna switch up the thing again. So Marsha is gonna be in the first part, writer one. Oh no, wait, Bryn's gonna be writer one, and Tim is gonna be writer two, and then Marsha's gonna be writer three.
Okay.
Does that sound? This is gonna be on the Google Doc, and we will start now. Yeah, feel free to
Cool, man.
feel free to mute or just type. Yeah, feel free to mute and then type away. So Marsha, you'll be writer three. I can just put that here. Marsha, this is Tim. Perfect. I'll just kind of be in the background.
Okay.
And we'll have about 25 minutes to do a flash.
Okay, here we go. Got it.
5-minute warning. This is amazing. Amazing work, seriously. Two minutes. And start to wind down. Form some form of conclusion. All right, pins down. Pins down. This is pretty amazing. So we'll be doing a quick reading for the final 5 minutes. I don't know if we'll be able to pick a winner, but we could have a conversation, like a 1-2 minute conversation, see which one everyone liked out of each other's stuff. But I think this is amazing. And yeah, Bryn, do you want to start? Feel free to start reading. Yeah.
Sure, I can read. All right. I just searched a name that meant water, so just because it's a water city. Anon sat in his high-rise apartment in his water recliner, The dome extended in front of him, a large whale finding its way around it. Every few turns, the whale would be a little confused as his nose slammed into the dome. He didn't understand why this clear thing was blocking his path. The city was already loud, but the pound on the glass was a simple reminder that what they lived in was just a backwards fish tank. The whale was their owner, and they were its fish. Alan reached over, arching his back so he could curl his fingers around his beer can. Pain from arthritis was by far the most difficult part. Leaning back, he again gazed outside of the dome. It was beautiful, a bit dark, but the city lights did some to fix that. Rainbow colors splintered across the city in an unpredictable pattern. He had never seen that before. At the side of the dome, close to where the whale had been, that was where the light was coming from. Forgetting his arthritis for the moment, he pressed the button to lower his feet to the ground, catapulting out of the recliner. It was like he was young again. He pressed his face against the glass, staring at the spot they found before. Then the spot spread, like a vein of some being made visible suddenly. His knees knocked together and his lips trembled as he fell to the ground. This was it. The one thing that had kept him, the simple old Terra man alive. Dome was cracking. It was the only explanation his feeble mind could grasp. It wasn't long before the water seeped inside, just little salty teardrops raining onto the city. The city would drown. Now he wished his parents had let him become a gill. He never had anything against the gill. In fact, he respected them. His parents' stubbornness would kill him now. Maybe he could have become a gill at a late age. Then the crack grew. It was larger than he had imagined, a spiderweb of disaster.
I really love that.
Nice, man. Wow. Very vivid.
Very, very powerful. I love that. Yeah, I'm transported.
That was
to
awesome.
that. Yeah. Awesome. Tim, do you want to go?
All right. All right. Mine's a very different tone. Inspired by you, Fabrice. You mentioned William Gibson, so I had to roll with it. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Okay. So, and Jonah, of course, another nautical reference, right? Jonah bopped down the dimly lit corridor through the maze of dull stainless steel tubes that connected Port Moresby, Terrortown to most, to Zanzibar City, what he and his mates like to call Gillville, the wet side of town. His communicator buzzed in his jeans pocket as he stopped and reached his hands into it. Well, okay, that needs editing. He admired his reflection in the dun-colored steel, his lean form, dark complexion, his T-shirt with the image of Christ at the Dead Sea, with the logo below, which, though he couldn't read it, knew what it said by heart. Jesus walked on water, not in it. Yo, he barked into the communicator. Jonah, what's kicking? You ready to get your thing wet? That's the only thing I'd like to get wet, he guffawed into the receiver. Where you at, ETA? 10 minutes. Keep it dry till I get there. Okay, but we got a line on some gill honeys that you ain't gonna believe. I'll cool your jets till I get there. He returned the communicator to his pocket, feeling for the black market cash card beneath it, and picked up the pace. Man, they were gonna have fun tonight. The corridor darkened as he walked. Another power shortage? God damn, this friggin' city was falling apart. Something moved. A shadow farther up the corridor. He slowed his pace. The shadow merged into a person. I couldn't really think of the verb for that. Sitting, knees up, hands wrapped around her face. A girl. No, not a girl. A gill. He roiled in disgust at her dead fish-colored skin, her stringy yellow hair. Hey, what are you doing? The girl raised her head, her eyes red with tears, then recoiled. What are you doing? He demanded, slowly approaching. She got into a crouch and backed away. Hey, it's okay, I won't hurt you, but why are you crying? Her face melted into anguish. It's not my fault. What's not your fault? Something cold hit his feet. What the F? Water sloshed along the corridor floor. Okay, so it's more of an opening, right? He's getting into it, and then just as the disaster is about to hit.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oof.
That's very intense.
Nice.
I really like that. I like the perspective. Yeah, this is very powerful. Marsha.
Okay. This is the recovery. I did not finish, but pens down, right? Maybe it
This
was
is
the
great.
bolts. Yeah. Maybe it was the bolts that created the first tear in the dome, but it was the human mind that created the crack that drowned all these people. When I became a Gill, I was 11 years old, and I didn't know the difference between my human family and my Gill family. But now I do, and the difference is life. What choice is there in the ocean? They all should have evolved if if they truly wanted to live free of fighting and judgment. If they really wanted to do it right on what we have left of this planet. All of these bodies reminded me of the dead fish that float along the surface in piles, taking the shape of the water that makes them. I have to pull them apart and present them to be identified. Maybe I will know one of them. My aunt and I have the same nose. I wish they would stop staring at me and help me identify a pulse, especially since they won't allow me to give
Ooh,
CPR.
Mm,
Yeah,
okay. Huh.
I love that.
that's the rescue effort. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's like that. My computer was dying and I had to like rush and plug in the plug. But so the ending of that won't allow me to give CPR. She's a
Mm,
Gill. She's part of the rescue effort. Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
that
This
is
is pretty.
so powerful.
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah, this was
yeah,
fun.
definitely. I feel like this is something you could do for like 2 or 3 hours, but it's like
Oh,
I
yeah.
think the Flash like creates really good how do I say parameters, like some good creative constraints.
hmm yeah, definitely.
Hey, I wonder if this is an interesting idea that a gill could actually keep a Terra alive underwater by absorbing oxygen through the gills and
And
then
breathing.
exhaling
hmm
into the mouth of the Terra. Because there's still, even when you exhale, there's a high percentage of oxygen that's still in your, like if that would be, maybe I'll roll
Mm,
with
That
that.
would be that'd be really cool. And
Right.
I yeah. Um, sounds like that could be like a romance story in there somewhere.
Exactly. Well,
Uh
that's what
huh.
it's going to be. Yeah, of course it
Yeah.
is. Right.
hmm
That's,
it,
Yeah.
since we
Um,
since we thought about doing this every 2 weeks, just as this was the initial experiment, so and then we focus on one world every month. So we could essentially write or either a continuation or another conflict in the same world in 2 weeks from now. But
hmm.
I'll love to debrief a little bit, but I wanted to end the live. We can keep it live and debrief. I think that could be well for 5 minutes. We could just debrief a little bit.
Sure.
How's the experience? How can this be improved? What did
Hmm.
you like? What did you not like? Because I think this is really powerful. Look what we're able to produce in like less than an hour.
Yeah.
I think it's really compelling in terms of the voice and the tone and the lens. I really like the Jonah reference too. So, but yeah, we can debrief a little bit. Let me stop the share, then we'll end the live after the. We'll debrief for two. We'll debrief for like 3 or 4 minutes. Just we can just final thoughts, and then we can debrief internally. I think that could be
Okay.
good.
Well,
So,
I'll just kick it off by saying very cool idea. Very inspiring, and I love how these three, like it's all set on the same scenario, and yet they're so different. So it's kind of a cool concept. It'd be interesting to kind of, you know, interweave these into a finished piece. It would actually
mm,
be pretty cool. Marshall, you got a big role with the ending. You know what I mean? But that would be I don't know. I thought that was a lot of fun actually. Very
yeah.
inspiring.
I really like this. It really like pushed just like get it out. Just get it out. Get it out there. You don't have to get into, I often get into like that analysis paralysis. Like
Mhm.
don't do that. Just get it out.
Analysis
Um
paralysis. I like that.
yeah, and I also enjoyed everyone has a different way of thinking, and I think it really comes through just doing this. Just like, yeah. Um I thought that the worlds of everyone was so different, but everyone has the same exact problem, which is,
Mhm.
something that we all do. So we're still human. Um, you know, it's interesting. I can't wait to see what happens in the
Totally.
next 2 weeks. Like
Hey, can we finish this? Can we go with
Yeah.
ours and just kind of get it down like another 500 words? I mean, you're right. It needs to be done fast, and probably I'll write 1,000 words and cut it down to 500. But it'd be interesting to just get, I don't know, get just kind of tie it up. It'd be, and then maybe in 2 weeks we can check out what we did or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we'll think through some of the processes. Bryn?
I thoroughly enjoyed this. I feel like I wasn't sure which part I'd want to do, but I really did enjoy the part that I got, and I enjoyed reading, like hearing both of your Tim and Marsha's parts. It was just cool to see, as you said, different voices for sure.
Yeah.
I chose a very slow burning kind of reflective old man-y kind of look on it, and it was just fun. I don't usually do, I don't know,
No, it's very cool.
being pressured to do it whenever Fabrice is like reading all of ours is like, oh, you gotta do something.
I feel like everyone's voice came through really clearly this time too, which is odd because you spend so much time trying to make sure that what you're getting down is how you want it to sound. It's like very trick of the mind sort of experiment going on here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
100%. It's like the stream of consciousness is like more like that pressure of the stream of consciousness is more like honoring of your voice in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
I really like Min's description of the holding of the beer can and in the recliner. Just like, I'm still going to be the same human I was on Earth. But now I am living in a fish tank. It's just like that really set the scene for it. It's like, yeah, that's the world that you live in. Like you're the same, but you're not. But your roles are completely different. Yeah.
It's an interesting allegory too, for the question of progress versus tradition, and ideology versus pragmatism. So it's definitely it's a interesting analogy for our times as well. So
Definitely.
I was curious I thought everything was great, extraordinary for a first draft. I was curious how we all felt about how the first draft turned out, and especially in this, because I felt like this is one of the better first draft pieces I've written.
Yeah. Usually,
and like
everybody was good.
Yeah. And like that's the whole thing. I'm like, should I just be writing on time limits? Like, like all the time?
Yeah,
because
right.
I got it done. It's like, yes, you could absolutely go back and edit it and make it more clarified. But the hard part, which is just getting it down, like it didn't take that long. So
no, I know.
It's like I'm questioning myself. Like, what are you doing?
I know, right? This kind of public pressure, right?
Yeah.
It's good. It's actually, it really forces you. It kind of hones the mind, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like going through it with other people as well is I really wish I was writing too, but I feel like there's a lot of technical things that I needed to figure out. But I was just like, I wanted to write as well because this is really powerful. I think it's the idea of like you're in the same world and then it's like there's other people that are writing and this is what you expect. This was much more like visceral, where it's like it's less like, okay, this is 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It's like we have an hour and then this is what everyone is looking at right now. That's cool. Well, I'm gonna stop the live.
Okay.
And yeah, this is great. So whoever's watching, tune in 2 weeks. I think this was a success. We're gonna do this again in the same world, Neptune. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. I'm gonna stop the live stream